Let's have a look at the business news now on the programme. We're going to begin today with a look at the pace of economic recovery in China. This is after COVID restrictions were fully lifted earlier in the year. Charles Pellegrin is here on set to tell us more. Charles.
Morning, Stuart. The world's second largest economy released its GDP figures for the first quarter of this year, and they're better than expected. Now, GDP growth came in at 4.5% in the first 3 months of the year, just ahead of analysts' forecasts of 4%. And those figures can be explained by strong performances of Chinese exports and infrastructure investment, as well as recovery in retail sales and property prices. This follows Beijing lifting COVID restrictions at the end of last year and the beginning of this one, and moving past its so-called zero COVID policy. The COVID outbreak that ensued this lifting of restrictions hampered growth somewhat, but the expectation is that the pace of growth will continue progressing, especially with the government sending signals it would lend more support to the business community after crackdowns on sectors like tech and property in previous years. All of these factors, the government crackdowns, COVID, led to stuttering growth last year. As you can see, the second quarter of 2022 saw just 0.4% growth. That's when the whole of Shanghai went into lockdown. And for the whole of 2022, GDP grew only 3%. So that was way below last year's target, which is at 5.5%. The objective set by Beijing for this year, for 2023, is of 5% growth. So still a bit of room there to progress. Well, China reopened, and so has the Shanghai Auto Show. The trade exhibition is taking place for the first time since 2019, with executives from all over the world gathering in the Chinese city. China remains the biggest auto market in the world, and local as well as international brands are showcasing their new products, especially electric vehicles. China is where 2/3 of all electric vehicles in the world are currently sold, which makes it a crucial market for car makers around the world, including Germany. Take a listen.
The Chinese market is very important. I think it's it's the importance market in the world right now. To this high speed up and ramp up you have, to a lot of people you have here in China. Every third car we sell in Germany or from German companies are sold here in China. For both sides, it is possible to invest for Chinese companies in Germany and for German companies here in China.
Let's have a look at how the stock markets are doing now. European markets opening higher this Tuesday. Investors gauging the state of the world economy after those Chinese GDP figures. We can see the Paris CAC 40 up just under 1/3%. The FTSE in London up 0.2%, and the DAX in Frankfurt up 0.25%. We're seeing mixed trading in Asia this Tuesday as well. The Nikkei in Tokyo finishing the session up by just over 0.5%. The Shanghai Composite up just under 0.25%. The Hang Seng in Hong Kong down, currently trading below 0.8%. And in Mumbai this Tuesday, Apple opened its first retail store in India. The American tech giant is staking more of its business on the country, both as a sales market and as an alternative manufacturing hub to China. India is home to the second highest number of smartphone users in the world after China. Obviously, hundreds of fans, as you can see there, of the company that makes the iPhone waiting in line even overnight. Second store will open in New Delhi on Thursday. As you can see, a man here holding an old, what we used to call Macintosh computers back in the day. Well, India and Russia have announced that they are discussing a free trade agreement. The move marks a step up in economic ties despite Russia's isolation on the global stage following its war in Ukraine. In the year since March 2022, Indian imports from Russia increased almost fourfold to $46.3 billion. Inke Oyetaide has more.
On a mission to deepen bilateral ties, it's the goal of Russian and Indian diplomats as they meet in New Delhi.
We are discussing an agreement with India for free trade between the countries and also mutual investment protection in both countries. I'm sure that this kind of mechanism that guarantees the protection of investments will be very beneficial for both sides. We're also very interested in a quality increase in trade and cooperation.
It's the latest sign of cooperation between the two countries. For decades, India has imported military equipment from Russia. Last month, Russia overtook Iraq to become India's top supplier of crude oil. And in November, Moscow was reportedly looking to import more than 500 products, including cars, aircraft, and trains from the South Asian country. These are sectors in Russia that have been hard hit by Western sanctions. While most countries have denounced the Kremlin for its invasion of Ukraine, New Delhi has stopped short of condemning Moscow, calling instead for a peaceful resolution to the war. In fact, economic ties between the two countries have grown since the start of the conflict. Indian imports from Russia almost quadrupled to $46.3 billion in the year to March 31st. Boosting trade with Asian allies like India and China is part of Moscow's strategy to cushion the blow of Western sanctions.
That's it for this business roundup, Stuart.
Thanks very much, Charles Pellegrin, with the business news for us here on France 24.